Bencana, bencana di luar sana. Oh. Enggak bener. Katanya udah bener-bener.
Aku gak aku gak gabut dulu makanya gak golek info. Aku tak gabut golek info.
Aku gabut terus.
Aku kan pikiran merak pikir ya, aku gak tak lakoni masalahnya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Waalaikumsalam. Good afternoon. Raquel, you can hear my voice. Raquel?
Hello, Andre.
Yes, can you hear my voice?
Can I start now?
Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
We can start now. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will have international lecturer with Dr. Raquel and BALANAY. She is one of the lecturer in CARAGA State University. She will give the lecture about circular economy. So one of the topic in agribusiness. I think it is a very important topic. We discuss about environment and economic aspect. So we will have very complicated problem. Dr. Raquel, she has so many experience in conducting research, especially about circular economy. So I hope you can follow this lecture well and please take note about what Dr. Raquel said. So now we ask Raquel to give a lecture to our student. Time is yours.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Is it now okay to start? Andre?
Yeah, you can start.
Thank you very much. Okay, I still have to adjust my screen because okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you very much, Andre, for the opportunity to be connected to your university, and especially this opportunity to deliver a lecture to your students at your university in Madura in Indonesia. So this afternoon, I will be giving you a lecture on the topic circular economy models in agricultural supply chains. So this is me. I am working in the College of Agriculture and Agri-Industries as a professor for agricultural economics, but then I got my post-PhD or postdoctoral fellowship through the Faculty for the Future program. And I got it from the University of Queensland in Australia. And I examined the circular economy opportunities in many sectors. And during that time, I had my postdoc fellowship in the University of Queensland. I was working then on the circular economy applications for gold mining sector, for the gold mining sector. In other words, for the management of the gold mining waste. That was the first experience with circular economy application, also exploration. So this afternoon, I will be explaining to you what circular economy is. If this is quite new to you, then I think this will make you rethink about what the circular economy system is and how it can be able to help us, especially that at this point in time, we are living in a challenging time or challenging period because there are many things that are going on that we can no longer explain. Okay, so this time, now I'm back in the Philippines and I am looking at the application of circular economy in the agriculture sector, especially in the agri-food supply chains or in the agricultural supply chains. So good afternoon, to each one of you, especially the people who are in the virtual space. Let me check how I will have this one. Okay. So in a nutshell, in other words, in summary, and if you want to have a glimpse of what circular economy is, it looks just like this. Of course, circular meaning it will be in circles. It will be going on in circles. And so after the production process, it's expected to be zero waste because the waste will now be reused, renewed, recycled, redesigned, and then the products will be plowed back into the system. So the contention of having the circular economy is that as much as possible, we are going to ease or slow down our disposal of waste. So in other words, we have to ease the waste burden. So that is the reason why we have to have circular economy, because if we keep on doing the business as usual activities, like how we are moving about in our respective countries, if we are not going to discipline ourselves, for instance, we will be producing a lot of wastes, and this waste will have economic implications later on because our environment will be damaged, and then our economic systems will get affected because of the environmental damages or the environmental repercussions or environmental outcomes of our business as usual activities. So this is the reason why we have to induce circular economy across the world. Although at first it would be environmental, but then later on you will realize that it has a very encompassing effect. What is going on in our world or what is going on in Indonesia, and we are several miles apart. The Indonesia and the Philippine Islands, we are quite far, but then what will happen to Indonesia and what will happen to the Philippines later on, you will get affected, especially if it has something to do with the environmental aspects. So there are planetary boundaries. So I think you can be able to read the source, the Azote for Stockholm Resilience Center in Stockholm University. And then we have Richardson, Stefan, and Rockstrom. They are the pioneering experts who look into the planetary boundaries. Because if you see the green circles in the middle, okay, in 2009 to 2015 to 2023, there are green circles in the middle. So actually, those are what we call the safe operating space for humanity. When we say safe operating space for humanity, that is the kind of environment that is safe for us. So we breathe in good air. We are experiencing good climate, not too hot, not too cold, just right for our country. And then we are not having any pollution experiences or any experiences about having smog or smoke and fog at the same time. So these green circles in the middle are actually the things that are telling us that the human or the people can live within this sphere, can be able to adjust or adapt in these green spheres. But if there are already oranges, in other words, we have done too much. These green are actually the limits to our actions, so that we will not be producing these environmental repercussions, okay? So that we will not be emitting a lot of greenhouse gases, emitting a lot of aerosols, emitting a lot of hazardous substances, and disposing a lot of waste. So right now, and last year, these 9 boundaries are assessed. If you look into the planetary boundaries in Google, you will be able to know what these planetary boundaries are, and Google will actually take you to the page about the 9 planetary boundaries and how these are assessed based on research works. And last year, when the 9 boundaries were assessed, 6 already crossed the limits. So there are already a lot of, there are just 3. These 3 that do not have the oranges, the orange color, are yet within the limit for humanity. The 3 others, we have already crossed the lines. In other words, we are overdoing. Let's say, for instance, the climate change. We can no longer control it. We can no longer prevent. We don't have the capacity now to prevent, let's say, strong typhoons, cyclones, the heating, and then the very strong rains and heavy rains, frequently heavy rains. So it's now happening. So those are the reasons, actually. So if you look at the planetary boundaries, this is I think the oldest work by, no, it's not the oldest work, but the second oldest work that is done by Stephen. These are what we call the boundaries that we have already crossed. So we have done too much that already damages the biodiversity. We have done too much to induce biogeochemistry or the nitrogen cycle. And then we have done too much that already make the climate change very, very strong at this time and damaging. So in 2011, the change in land use, global freshwater use, the biogeochemistry, phosphorus cycle, stratospheric ozone depletion, the ocean acidification, the chemical pollution that are not yet quantified, and the atmospheric aerosol loading are the ones that are not yet breached. But at this time, we just have the 3 remaining ones that are not breached. So if you look at it, the Earth is what we call on its tipping point, meaning we can no longer understand our climate. It's not within our expectations. It's getting out of normalcy, not anymore normal, and unpredictable. So for agriculture, this will make your production decisions crazy, because your expectations will not be anymore, they are not anymore within the sphere wherein there is still the tendency that your prediction or your expectation will be right. So unpredictable and then out already of order. That's why we have been talking about climate change in the national arena, climate change as well in the international arena. So our condition on Earth is abnormal and out of sync from our expectations. And this is making us feel uncomfortable because humanity is now subjected to fiercer and harsher conditions. So our summer will be very, very hot. And then during that time, our rains come, they are very, very heavy, and sometimes they are going to cause damaging floods. Okay. Okay. There's one message. Oh, sorry. And then let me get back a bit. I think this is okay. So circular economy is actually the modification of our system today, because our system is yet linear, because we are still struggling on really having the circular strategies applied. And so we see that we are still contributing to the waste burden. In other words, because we are still, most of our economies are yet linear, not circular. Although we are trying to be circular by not wasteful, but most of us are not doing the circular strategies and not thinking about the waste burden. So we keep on doing the linear economy thing, which is about make, take, and dispose. So after making or producing the goods, we consume the goods, and then there are leftovers. And then whenever we don't like anymore the goods, now take note, we don't like anymore the goods, okay? So we don't want anymore the goods, then we just throw them away. So in circular economy, it's telling us to mind our actions. We have to think of our actions before doing anything. So let's say, for instance, if I'm going to buy something, is it necessary? And is it going to last? And I will not be, let's say, I will not be bored about it quickly, so that that thing that I will buy will stay with me, and I will not throw that thing as part of the waste in our locality. So there is really a big difference visually in this diagram. You can really see the difference between the linear economy, because when you say the linear economy, it's just a straight line. While in the circular economy, it is emphasized that it will go back again. So that's why circular, because it's supposed to go on circles. So that you are not contributing a lot to the landfill, and you are not contributing a lot to the incineration of garbage or waste or trash. So that is what is meant by the transition towards a circular economy. So this is the famous diagram that is actually formulated by the champion of circular economy in Europe and in the US, I think. So this is from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, because the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is the champion of the circular economy movement across the world. So there are many business partners already. I think you have heard of H&M. H&M is very famous for when it comes to the success story of textile industry or of apparel industry. Apparel and textile industry that has made it big in today's world, in the modern time, okay? And that H&M is actually an industry that is applying circular economy, because the old clothes are collected by the stores, H&M, and then the H&M usually recycle them by redesigning the clothes. So most of the clothes that are sold and things that are sold in H&M are actually recycled products. They're actually recycled products. So that is why H&M is also a multi-awarded company, clothing company, because of that particular strategy. So it is helping actually, and it is also growing. Now it is in my place in Butuan City, especially in the malls of our city here in Mindanao in Philippines. So it's basically trying to reuse the old things. So in Australia, when I was in Australia doing my post-PhD in circular economy, I was made to observe the shop. So I was made to observe the shop, how it actually collects or takes back the old clothing, unused clothes or used clothes, whatever is the item in fabric, they actually collect them back by encouraging their buyers, their store buyer, the buyers of their products to give them a bag full of used clothes or used fabrics or used clothing, and they will get a discount of their purchases up to 20%. So many people are actually taking bagfuls of old clothes, or unused clothes, and the reason why they are doing that is so that they can avail of the 20% discount. And H&M is a department store, or it is a company that is actually peopled with a lot of experienced dressmakers or seamstresses or producers of clothes. They design the old clothes into something new that is actually loved by its consumers or its buyers. So that's why H&M is doing that in Australia. And it is actually making a big name when it comes to sustainable development, sustainable strategies, and circular strategies in the world of fabrics and textiles. So you see this one, this is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's diagram for circular economy, and this is called a butterfly diagram. So you type in butterfly diagram of circular economy, you will be made to go to the page of Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and you can read a lot in the website of Ellen MacArthur Foundation's success stories, and also some stories that are encouraging, because there are some stories that demonstrate how they are able to overcome barriers, how they are able to overcome challenges so that they can pursue circular economy strategies. Now, I have to tell you that circular economy strategies are not only adapted for the reason that they are likable, for the reason that they are modern. Circular economy strategies are adapted because of the glamour that comes with the circular economy context or principle. It's not like that, but first is we have to put into the right context the application of circular economy, because circular economy is applied for the reason that we are going to contribute to making our world safe to live in. Because right this time in the Philippines, there are some areas that are now flooded, and there are some areas that are now having problems because the heat index, I do not know if you're familiar with the heat index measured in degrees Celsius. That means the ambient temperature goes up to 55 degrees Celsius. So there are now areas in the Philippines that have environmental temperature of 55 degrees Celsius. That's very, very hot. Last time or last month, our Butuan City, where I am working, we have a heat index of 48 degrees Celsius. That's already very hot. Okay, so this is the butterfly diagram of circular economy, and it is just telling us to really reuse, reduce, and recycle everything that we can reuse, reduce, and recycle, so that we will be easing up the waste burden. So there are characteristics of a circular economy that are making circular economy a relevant economic system at this time. First is it is regenerative. When it comes to regenerative, in other words, the inputs can be reproduced, not necessarily that the inputs are to be extracted again from our resource stocks or natural resource stocks, but we can produce, we can renew, and we don't have to destroy or extract resources from natural resource stocks. Restorative, so it can be able to metabolize. So it's like our body, that when we get sick, even if we are not actually taking any medicine at all, we can still get well. So that's circular economy. So there is a characteristic of circular economy that is making it able to heal itself. It is a system capable to metabolize its own footprints, positive or negative, and so as not to induce negative externalities. A zero waste system, in other words, a system with the highest operational efficiency, and a system where waste is an input. That is what is making it a circular economy. Oh, wait. So circular economy is described to be like this, where materials become waste, and then these waste are being used in the system, and nature is regenerated, and then the products and materials are kept in circulation through processes like reuse, refurbishment, remanufacture, recycling, and composting. So a lot of R's. So that's why in Australia, there is what we call R-Hub in the city of Sydney. In Sydney, Australia, there is R-Hub that is under the under the management of the government of Sydney, and also under the supervision of the UTS. That's a university in Sydney. And so there are 3 principles of circular economy that is driven by design. So circular economy is actually for the elimination of waste and pollution, and for the circulation of products and materials, other highest value. And the reason for this is so that we are saving our natural resource stocks. We are not going to extract over and over again the raw materials from our natural resource stocks. As much as possible, we have to limit our actions to our natural resource stocks. And then we will allow the nature to regenerate by doing so. So there are many things that are considered here, including renewable energy, the biomaterials, everything that is not going to induce greenhouse gas emissions, not going to create or exacerbate or aggravate, worsen climate change impacts, and not going to induce more pollution. So there are 5 pillars of circular economy. One is we have to think not only our own families, our own selves, but we have also to think of our actions. If our actions are going to affect our society, let's say, for instance, what will happen to the biodiversity if I keep on, let's say, throwing a lot of garbage in canals? or in our ponds, or in our rivers, in our lakes. And if I buy things most of the time, especially things that are disposable, plastics, we have already a lot of problem with our plastics because our plastics are now polluting our oceans. Yes, we are getting fish still from our oceans, from our seas, but these fishes and marine resources are actually now having microplastics in their bodies because they happen to ingest. So waste is food. In other words, we are not going to throw away our waste because we can still reuse our waste by thinking our waste to be food or to be inputs that we are going to use again. Diversity is strength, meaning if we have this and if we collaborate and if we integrate our action, then it's okay because we will have strength with our diverse strategies. Design out waste, meaning we don't treat something waste as waste, but we are always finding waste as having uses so that we design out waste. Renewable energy, in other words, we will not be using energy from fossil fuels because that would mean extracting from the earth, but we will be using renewable energy, which we see that are working, especially in Europe, in Japan, they have solar energy. They also have wind energy from the ocean and hydrology, hydropower. So we can have renewable energy actually. So there are building blocks of circular economy. One is sustainable development because circular economy is not actually existing out of nothing. It has been built from one strategy to another strategy or one initiative to another initiative until such time that circular economy was formed. So sustainable development is actually a building block of circular economy because circular economy is guided by the sustainable development goals. So sustainable development goals, when there are talks about circular economy, you always hear later that there are sustainable development goals that come with the circular economy because circular economy gets directions or gets goals from sustainable development. Ecological transition because we need now to check our actions in our society as much as possible because too much carbon will heat up our environment and it will make our climate system go crazy. So that's the reason why we have to, as much as possible, transition towards a low carbon economy. And that would have to be sustainable because if that would not be sustained, then the impacts of our climate change will be damaging, more damaging. Then green economy, in other words, we put we put emphasis also to the green products, green accounts, and green initiatives. In other words, we think of the environmental risks, how we can produce environmental risks with our production practices or with our production processes. Functional economy, so as much as possible, we have to be mindful of the functionality of the goods that we are producing. If they are not functional to our households and to our engagements, then we have to check our decisions of getting goods that are not functional. Life cycle thinking. So in other words, the life cycle thinking is actually a way of having environmental optimization, how we can have the environmental optimization. The life cycle thinking will make us aware of the results of our actions, the results of our practices, the results of our technologies, by making us aware of the pollution, the emissions. So what are the environmental footprints and externalities that come with our actions? That is what life cycle thinking is going to make us realize. Cradle to cradle thinking, meaning we can be able to put back whatever is the product at the end or waste at the end back into the system. And in other words, product to a new product. So it's not going to be something that is going to later on go to the landfills. And then we have the shared value as well. So industrial ecology is also part of the building blocks of circular economy, along with extended producer responsibility. When we say extended producer responsibility, I do not know if you have in your countries, let's say, for instance, somebody is, or a company is selling a bottled drink, and then instead of throwing away the used bottles, or after drinking the contents of the bottles, instead of throwing away the empty bottles, the company will take back by making you bring the empty bottle to buy another filled bottle with beverage. Like say, for instance, in our case in the Philippines before, we have Coca-Cola in bottles. So Coca-Cola in bottles, but before we can buy another bottle of Coca-Cola, we have to surrender to the seller an empty bottle of Coca-Cola so that the seller will give us the Coca-Cola product. No, that is what is meant by an extended producer responsibility. Industrial ecology is an industrial system in which the waste of one industry is going to be an input to another industry. And then all of these things have eco designs. In other words, designs that are compatible with nature, designs with compatible with the environment. So circular economy and agriculture. Why are we having this circular economy considered to be integrated into agriculture? Because agriculture needs to catch up with a growing population. It must grow because our population is growing. Our world population is expected to increase by 2 billion in 2050. So the source of our food, fiber, and raw materials must also grow, commensurate to the growth of population. So it must also grow. However, agriculture is one of the polluters in the world. Okay, there are footprints and externalities that are emitted by or produced by agriculture as a sector or as an industry. So circular economy needs to be gradually integrated into agriculture so that agriculture will be aligned to the sustainable development objectives of any country in the world. So there are downsides of a growing agriculture. First, if you are going to grow or expand agriculture, you are actually going to increase the use of agricultural inputs such as fertilizer, pesticides, what else? Insecticides. There are lots of synthetic products that are used as agricultural inputs. So if you increase agriculture, you will be also increasing more likely the use of these synthetic products. So if we are not going to go circular, then there will be a lot of problems in the future. Increased competing use of land. In other words, if you are going to increase agriculture, then you will be taking more lands to be under agriculture. So I think you cannot be able to establish agriculture in subdivisions anymore if there are already occupants in the subdivisions. So more likely, you are going to take increased agricultural areas in forested lands. Okay, so forestry, mountains, more will be tilled for agriculture, or more lands will be used for agriculture. In other words, there will be less land available for forestry or for our forest and for whatever purposes. Increased greenhouse gas emissions, especially from biomass waste that are accumulated. Increased pressure on water resources because our agriculture is going to need a lot of water. Potentially, climate change impacts will also be exacerbated with the growing agriculture. So there are other facts about the downsides of agriculture, because agriculture is the largest water consumer in the world. That is by RAQUEL et al. In 2024. So irrigated agriculture is consuming up 85% to 90% of global water consumption. And then intensified cropping systems, yes, it will provide high yields for us, but it will emit greenhouse gases and will also induce environmental consequences. So in China, the greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture is 17% of the country's total greenhouse gas emissions. It's coming from our plants, but more of them are coming from the manure of the livestock sector. And then intensifying agriculture also produces issues on biodiversity loss. Because if you do monocropping, because you will be selective in agriculture, which crops you are allowing to grow and which crops you are going to eradicate, so that you are now damaging the biodiversity. So that's the reason why agriculture is one of the culprits of biodiversity loss. So if you are going to address the downsides for agriculture through circular economy, you're actually going to get guidance in the other half of the butterfly diagram. This is what we call the biological side. Okay, so the biological side actually is suited for our concerns in our agriculture to be circular. So that's why so instead of throwing away, you're going to get it back to the system. So by reusing it and by integrating it in your farm, you will create what we call a new product, and that will be plowed into the system, that will be used in the system over and over again. So the waste materials will be extracted and will undergo aerobic digestion. Anaerobic digestion will produce the biogas, and then some will be going to be part of the renewable energy, and the renewable products will get back into the system and will be consumed by the system. That is what is meant by that. So the challenge in the circularity of agriculture, is this another case? Okay, let me check. Okay, the downside. So the challenge in the circularity of agriculture, this can be resolved through the global initiatives. We already heard about COP26, COP24 initiatives, because these are global initiatives that are emphasized in the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals on having the renewable energy and in cutting down GHGs, or the greenhouse gas emissions. In the national country level initiatives, we adhere, we formulate laws and policies that will make us adhere to the global initiatives, especially those that are led by the UNDP or the UNEP also. So there are circular models in the agri-supply chains. The first one is the circular food economy. So the circular food economy is like this. This is the diagram that has been drawn by Lugu et al. In 2022. In other words, there are consciousness on food loss and food waste, and there are also consciousness on food safety and food security and regenerative products, products from regenerative agriculture. So all of these will be taken into account in the normal cycle of production. So that is why circular food economy is a co-creative food ecosystem that has this emphasis on food safety, food security, and biodiversity conservation. So there are agricultural practices that are being held in check in circular food economy through regenerative foods grown or through regenerative agriculture, so that it will be compatible to the environment where we are moving about or where we are living. And then it will be also compatible to our food production systems and the systems that are checking the quality of our foods. So this is a sort of a model in which food losses and food waste, we know what food losses and food wastes are. Food losses are from our post-harvest practices that are not efficient. And food waste is from our leftovers. And whenever the foods become unfit for consumption, and also when we don't anymore like the foods that we have in our refrigerators or in our houses, we throw them away and they become part of the waste materials. So as much as possible, we have to check our consumption behavior, because if we are this wasteful, we are actually putting more pressure in our environment. And then this is the kind of economy, the circular food economy, wherein perishability are managed. So there are ways in which we can actually make our foods available for a longer period of time. So sometimes we see, yes, processing, but there are some ways in which, especially the traditional ways in which we can preserve our foods safely. And also the R's in circular economy are taken into account in the circular food economy, like the reuse, recycling, recovery, and reprocessing edible food and inedible parts, so that we are not actually contributing to the waste burden and also to the emission of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere and pollutants. So aside from this, there are initiatives, especially for the agri-food sector. That means if there are surplus food, then we have to know how to redistribute surplus food. Okay, like many of our food chains, food companies, I don't know if you have in Indonesia, McDonald's, Kenny Rogers, those are American brands. What else? Burger King. Of course, they have food safety and quality principles followed. But many of the times in their operations, there are surplus food items. They cannot sell out all that they are able to produce within the day. So in other countries, they are making this surplus food available to those who do not have food. Okay, so There are also some orphanages or some charities who receive surplus food items so that they can make use of these food items. Pricing the true cost of resource consumption and food loss and food waste in natural capital, because if we do not put value in the food loss and food waste, we do not know what we are actually creating that will damage our environment. So let's say, for instance, if we have lots of money and we keep on buying and buying, even if we do not need and if we do not want later on, then they will pile up as waste later, okay, because of our behavior not held in check. So if we are not actually making or valuing this, then it's okay to keep you know, buying something that is not needed and then throwing away as waste. Then food packaging. This is now one of our projects that we propose in the Philippine government, that we have to look into the food packaging, because the food packaging can sometimes be the reason why our food are easily spoiled or easily get bad because of the food packaging. Resource recovery models, of course, that one is something that is very necessary, because we prevent the waste from piling up. Then shifting taxes away from labor and recovered materials, because these are done by the recyclers. These are done by those who would like to contribute to the environment, to the health of our environment. These companies should not be taxed heavily, so that we will be encouraging these companies in existence, and we will be able to encourage these companies from making better performances when it comes to balancing economics, social, and environment in terms of benefits. Integration of information technology and automation in the agri-supply chains, because post-harvest losses and food waste are created because of coordination problems across the agri-food supply chains. So information technology and automation of agri-supply chains, although very high-tech sounding, very high-tech, but then it can actually be very helpful in making coordination works in the agri-supply chains. And then, of course, regenerative farming practices, whether we like it or not, that will be the in thing in the future. And turning remaining and edible plants into new products, because we have biotechnology and we can be able to make new products from our biomass waste or from our biomaterials, bio waste, okay? That will be helpful in our day-to-day living in the society. So in the Philippines, we have also the successful sustainable food marketing efforts. And this is for us to be able to really promote the pro-environmental behavior, and also make the pro-environmental behavior sustainable. So we have this in the Philippines, especially for the Gawad Kalinga. So there are enchanted farms, many farms in the Gawad Kalinga. When we say Gawad Kalinga, I don't know if we have a common understanding on Gawad Kalinga, but it is just to mean small villages of people who are actually beneficiaries of the housing projects of some NGOs. And they have small farms, okay? They have small farms in which they grow organic foods. So when they grow organic foods, water will be safe, there will be no pollutants in the water, and so they can actually make safe water available within the housing project. So that is one thing. Human nature is part organic agriculture in Benguet province. And then we have also the Coffee Alliance, which are actually pro-environmental companies and pro-environmental efforts. So what is this one? Oh yes, the integration of big technologies will make really our goods and services be produced and our value chains be able to produce and market goods and services more responsibly, sustainably, in other words. So these are now the technologies that are now found to be useful in our value chains, like precision farming, the AI, the decision support systems, the GIS, okay, the digitalization, robotics, and blockchains. So we have ICT, internet, of course, virtual spaces, because we have now virtual spaces. Most of our colleagues in the university are actually ordering goods in virtual markets. Okay, so this is one of the models for bioeconomy, circular bioeconomy, that is fit for agriculture and for forestry. So the use of the residues and waste, you see this use of the residues and waste, that will be extended to not only cascading uses, but also in bioenergy production. And then this bioenergy will get back to the system. There may be some other residues and waste that cannot be captured, but most of the residues and waste will have to be captured by a circular bioeconomy, because the returns also, or the income, potential income, if not much, will be captured through circular strategies, the potential income will also get low. So that is the case with it. So in other words, with this model, you can see that there are lots of uses of wastes that are produced by agriculture and some other bio industries. And this is our project that we are actually looking at and proposing. It just got approved this morning in the Philippine government, wherein the agricultural enterprise will be looked at or will be examined, and the waste of production, in other words, the waste of producing farm products will be looked at, and we will also be looking at the biomass waste and wastewater and whatever are the footprints that will be produced from the agricultural production activities. And then we're looking at classifying what waste can be reusable and what wastes are supposed to be part of the residuals, so that when we know what is the volume of the residuals, then we are going to think of how we can manage them, how we can control them in the next production process, and how we can be able to control their effects to the environment. But for the reusable waste, we will look at what potential byproducts and how we can be able to contribute to the strengthening of the supply chains of the biomaterials, bioenergy, biofertilizer, biochar, these things. Because in other words, the reusable waste, we can still potentially make good use of them, and we can earn money from making these sustainable products like biogas, bioenergy, biofertilizer, by looking at how we can strengthen the supply chains. Because at this time in the Philippines, although the Philippines is one of the signatories for the bioenergy, increase in the bioenergy use in the future, especially in 2030, but the supply chains for bioenergy is still very, needs improvement and not very much established. So that is the reason why we are proposing this in the to the Philippine government, so that we can look at how we can contribute to the strengthening of the supply chains for the biomaterials. So the farm income of the households will have additional potential income that are yet unexplored at this point, so that in the future, the farmer can be able to maximize the opportunities in his or her farm. So that's actually the case with it. So our project is going to look at the circular bio economy model that is based on the agriculture. Okay, so issues and concerns. I think this is the last slide. So there is a greatest challenge in the adoption of circularity. So at this point in time, we have been hearing circular economy, but we do not know how to carry out circular economy in terms of strategies. Because when you say a strategies, then in other words, there are several activities. And also our society needs to learn circular economy, so that we can be able to appreciate circular economy in terms of what it can produce as benefits to our society. And then food preferences of consumers. We really have an issue, because most of us would like our agricultural products to be fresh. And if not fresh, we are going to throw them away. And then we just throw them away because there are biodegradable materials. And we do not know that when too much biodegradable materials, or too much accumulation of biodegradable materials, that will actually produce carbon, methane gas, and that will also affect our environment. So the food preferences of the consumers, we have to check. No? And then composting and other circular systems need technical knowledge and control. And the reason for this is so that we will be able to reduce the risks that come with this composting and other circular systems. Like composting, we are actually accumulating waste, but we have to properly do this so that we will not be spreading diseases and some pollution by having the accumulation of the biomaterials. And then in our country, we have economic priorities. We have problems with priorities that are actually not aligned to circular economy. And then there are less entrepreneurial support for the emerging products and markets from circular economy models. At this time, research and data is so wanted, and that's why our project proposal to the Philippine government on circular bioeconomy got funded for the next 2 years. Okay, so thank you very much for your questions. I can entertain questions from you, and then you can contact me through my official institutional email address that you see on screen. So that's my presentation to you. Thank you very much. I hope that everybody is going to realize the benefits of having circular economy, not only in non-agriculture industries, but also in our agriculture. Thank you very much. And thank you, Professor Andre, for inviting me. Yeah. Thank you. I cannot hear nothing. You can actually write your questions in the chat box. I can read and give you the answers. Yeah, it's okay.
How about now? You can hear my voice. Okay. Yeah. Actually, there are some important aspects that you already mentioned in your discussion.
Yeah.
Maybe we can see our location in Madura. Madura is small island, but actually we have some potential aspects. For example, about beef cattle in Madura, there is about 30% of beef cattle of Indonesia is in Madura. So you said there is some strategy. One of them is biogas. Yeah. Actually, if we have a good practice about the beef cattle, we can have so many biogas. But in fact, up to now, there is no good practices in Madura about how to make the waste of the beef cattle better than. So before I continue, I give chance to our students who have a question, maybe from this class before I give to the participant in online Zoom. So I give the class in Dryland management process. Okay. You have question? Yeah, one question from this class. Yeah. Silakan. Kalau
Yeah.
ada bahasa Indonesia, I will translate.
Bahasa Indonesia aja, Pak.
But you have to write English, ya.
Nggak pasti, Bang.
Ya, nggak masalah.
Berdiri. Berdiri ya.
Ayo, Fer. Apa tadi duluan?
Hi. Hello. How are you? It's good.
I have question to encourage farmers and knowledge of the benefit and farming of circular economy. As we know that farming often use chemical fertilizer and it will certainly have an impact and online condition in the future.
Is this the one that is typed in the chat box? Sorry, because I cannot hear very well the question, but there is something that is typed in the chat box. It was explained earlier that there are 5 pillars of circular economy. If the 5 pillars are not fulfilled, will circular economy remain efficient in achieving? Actually not. You really have to have most of the pillars achieved. Because if you are not going to do it, most likely you will not succeed in the circular economy. Circular economy strategies and initiatives. So first is there should be that waste is food, that one, because if that would help us check our behavior, and our attitude towards our consumption. Because if you are mindful of your actions and it has something to do with, let's say, you are thinking of what waste you are going to contribute if you are not going to keep your let's say the products that you have bought long in consumption or in terms of use, then yes, you cannot be able to contribute to circular economy or circularity.
Yeah. The important thing is how system thinking, because up to now, I think we have still problem with how to how to respect the environment. So it is due to about the economic problem, because in the society, we face about very limited income. So
Yeah.
we still don't consider about the circular economy. But
Yeah.
I will give time to the student in the Zoom or screen. Yeah. Okay. So
Andre, can they type their questions because I could not hear?
oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes. They can type their questions so that I can read in the chat box. I'm opening the chat box now.
Is it right?
Okay, maybe you can type. Yeah, you can type in the chat box. Raquel, we have question in meeting chat.
I haven't received it yet.
Oh, okay, let me go.
What happened? In the chat box?
Yeah.
Have you sent it? It was explained earlier that there are 5 pillars. That one, will circular economy remain efficient in achieving a sustainable future? Because it's a pillar, then it has to be part of the things that will have to be considered. If you fail to consider the 5 pillars, then it's impossible for you to be able to really do circular economy. Because it is a pillar, so it supports your next action and whatever change in the behavior. So in other words, you need to think of the 5 pillars of circular economy as your basis of changing your behavior, changing your mindset, and changing your habits so that you can slowly move towards circularity. That is what is meant by that. Next
Yes,
question.
I think. Next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, you just type.
Ya, juga yang mahasiswa yang ada di Zoom, silakan diketik di meeting chat-nya.
The what?
Yeah, maybe while waiting our student, you said before that there is a success story about circular economy. In your case, what is the main factor that we have to consider to make sure that circular economy can be run?
So for circular economy to work, when it comes to having success stories, first is when you look at the renewable energy, the renewable energy is now felt as really something that we have to produce. Okay, so that's why there are now a lot of technologies that harvest not only the solar, but the wind power for renewable energy. That is one of the success stories of circular economy. And now the bioenergy, because our fossil fuels, like our gas, oil and gas at this time, it has to have an increased blending rate for biofuels. That is actually a circular economy that is going to succeed in the future because it is slowly changing the products that we are consuming day to day. So let's say our gas, oil and gas at this time with the blending rates, not purely fossil fuels, but there are bioenergy components. So in that particular case, in agriculture, you are actually trying to make better value for our biomass waste because the bioenergy is coming from the biomass waste. So that is a success story. The one that I told you about, that I shared with you about the H&M company, is for the apparel. Because the apparel or the clothing company hardly aligns itself to circular economy. But H&M as a company is trying to demonstrate that it can work actually. Because if you look at the textile industry, it is one of the problems, and that is the reason why circular economy is tried to be considered to be integrated in the textile industry and in the clothing industry. Why? Because styles. Once the clothing is out of style, we don't anymore like to wear the old clothes, the out of style clothes. They will go to waste, okay? They will go to waste. So H&M is trying to tell us, no, you don't have to waste the old clothes, the old clothing. Let us take it back and then make something new out of it that you can wear in the current time. So you are not actually wasting away the old clothes because they are put back to the system to be of use again. Yes, that is what is meant by that. Okay, so I would like to ask a question based on the three principles before. The third one said that we have to regenerate the environment by not using the natural resources too much, that we have to let it regenerate by itself. But what about coal, oil? Yeah, that's the point. That's the point. In the future, we have to look for alternatives for coal. And circular economy is trying to tell us the use of the renewable energy can replace the coal, can replace the natural gas, can replace the oil that we are using. It's just that we have to get there slowly because the existing facilities and existing logistics are powered by coal, oil, and natural gas. Let's say, for instance, our cars at this time is fueled by the fossil fuels, is fueled by oil coming from fossil fuels. At this time, we cannot drastically change it, like drain the fossil fuel, gas, or oil, and replace water in our engine. It's not possible. So we have to really look for ways in which we can invent something that will be compatible to bioenergy, that will be compatible to electricity. And Tesla is making it. It has changed the engine, because if you do not really do changes at all, you cannot be able to transition to circular economy. That is what is meant by that. So if our country is so governed by foreign companies that are still into extractive processes, like into coal, oil, and natural gas, then our transition to, or the transition of that country may be slowed down by that being governed by foreign companies into coal, oil, and gas. It's the same thing in the Philippines. We have mining companies that are foreign companies, so they are led to mine some of our mountains here, some of our areas here for 25 years, for 50 years. And that is the reason why the Philippines cannot right away transition as fast as it can towards circular economy. So we still have those debates. You are right in that aspect, actually. It will slow down.
Okay, is there any question from the participant in Zoom? I think so. Okay, Raquel, of our classes
Yes.
up to 2 minutes.
Oh.
Again, thank you very much for your very big information, and that our student already get information about circular economy. I hope next time we will have another class with our students. So hopefully, in this class, we also have another activity to our presentations.
Yeah.
Productive result. Okay. Again, we give the big hand to the.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much, Andre. I'll see you on June 30 because you hold a lecture with us. Thank you very much. Yes.
Maybe before we finish, could you open cam or the student, and we will give the screen together.
Yeah, I will contact you about that one.
Okay.
Contact you about that one for the schedule.
Open cam ya.
Yes.
Silakan bisa kami atur.
Yes, hello.
So I will send you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ayo sekarang ini sekarang semua ya. Ayo bisa.
Sige,
Ayo
bye-bye.
bebas ya bebas. Ayo yang lain juga. Ya boleh. Okay. Tidur. Dan.
Okay. Thank you, Andre. Yes. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yes, bye-bye. Yes.